Speaking of not being allowed to exist, you want to do that to private schools.
Less controversial.
Well, yeah, but you say shut them down.
Well, I don't say shut them down, but I say the ones at the very, very top of the system, the ones that cost $35,000 to $50,000 a year, that they've become kind of a malign force in America. They hoover up all the, the huge number of spots in the Ivy League schools. They have, Exeter has $1.3 billion. We don't get any tax money from
Exeter.
Exeter.
That's a big one. Where is that?
It's a fancy one. It's in
I wouldn't know
Hampshire.
private schools. I just went to a regular school in New Jersey.
Okay.
I think I'm
and
happy.
You got a show, yeah.
That's right.
Berkeley High School. Yeah, they're.
You look like you were born on a tennis court. Where'd you go to school?
I went to a fancy private school.
Which one?
You did?
I went to a school in Massachusetts called Middlesex, which I thought was a wonderful school and still think is a wonderful school. And I think some of these schools do extraordinary jobs in really educating people from a much more diverse
They've changed a lot
than
since you were there. I'm sorry, but they have. And this is a lot of what your article about. I also read Barry Weiss's article about Harvard-Westlake. And, I mean, I've been talking about this on the show, taking a lot of shit for talking about it, but it's true. There is something going on in the schools. And you're right. These are the schools that funnel kids to Harvard, and Harvard, funnels them out to the important parts of the media, television, government.
They're going to be your boss.
And they control a lot of how people think. So, two things that are different. Parents don't have the back of the teachers anymore. They always side with their little brat. That's different. And the biggest thing, I think, is the shift away from moral teaching, from the parent to the school. Used to be the school would be afraid of what the parent thought. Right. Now the parent is afraid of going against what they're teaching in school, even when they don't agree with it.
Right.
That's a huge shift that we should stop and at least notice and debate and talk about, right?
Of course. And, in these private schools, well, that's not such a big issue in the sense that you don't have to send your child to that school. Nobody's holding your gun to your head and saying you have to go to a fancy school. But when we have public schools, thousands and thousands of public schools, where parents are really afraid to challenge what's going on in the classroom, that's really a problem. That's really a serious problem in education.
But I think it's a problem throughout education, which is that we're losing the distinction between what education is and what indoctrination is.
Yes.
And a lot of what's happening is really just indoctrination. Like, I studied Marxism in school. It's important to understand what Marxism is. It's different from being taught from a Marxist perspective, right? One exposes you to ideas, the other makes you a kind of a soldier in a given perspective. And there's something kind of totalitarian about that. You're producing not independent thinkers, you're producing red guards, you're producing cadres.
And it's so grotesque at the wealthy schools where here are these children of actual billionaires being turned into baby Marxists because that's how rich your daddy has to be for Marxism to work for you personally as a theory. So the whole thing is, and that's another American issue. We've got to pull together and we've got to lift up this whole idea of education and get some of this crap out of the schools. We just have to.
What I read in some of your articles, some in Barry's, is that there is this climate of fear that people are living in schools, fear of not being woke enough, of not speaking woke enough. She says, power in America comes from speaking woke. She quotes this math teacher who says, I'm in a cult. Well, not exactly. It's that the cult is all around me and I'm trying to save kids from becoming members. She says, it sounds like he's a Scientology defector.
Well, I think right now we're in sort of a certain period that I think is hopefully going to be short-lived, in that schools have been reacting very quickly and very hugely to the social protests over the summer, which kids, thank God, were very moved by and were very much a part of. And so that's important, but the lessons that they're introducing on the backs of that protest are grotesque.
Yeah, and also the climate of fear is not just in schools. It's throughout institutions, companies all over the country. And people have to start calling bullshit on it. I mean, the only way this ends is people who are in authority say, no, we're not going to be bullied. If you don't want to work here, go elsewhere. These are our values, and we're going to stick by them. They include fair play and openness to a variety of points of view.